Men, stop begging to be chosen. You must choose yourself. So I was addicted to being chosen until I woke up. Because as men, of course, we're taught to prove ourselves constantly to women, to each other, to society as a whole. But no matter what I did, I just always felt invisible, like I was never enough. And the truth was that I was never going to be enough until I chose myself. So in this video, we're going to talk in depth about the destructive role that chasing validation is playing in your life. And I'll be honest, I just wish someone would have sat me down and had this conversation with me when I was in your position, because it would have saved me years of just like failed friendships, failed relationships, and honestly just self-hatred. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. For anyone new, the name is Pierce, and this is what I do. Is that a rhyme? Should I be a rapper? Let me know in the comments. Okay. So let's start by actually talking about the validation trap. Because it's a trap that a lot of us are in, whether it's chasing the validation of our friends and family, or much more likely nowadays is chasing the validation from strangers online in the form of likes, more likes, comments, friend requests. We've been socialized nowadays to kind of put all of our self-worth and our respect for ourselves onto others being able to notice us and others being able to say that we're good enough. And we're conditioned to do this through social media, through things like likes, comments, friends requests. This makes you feel like you are important. But the trap of validation, when it's external, is that you can never have enough of it. And this puts you into something I like to call the validation trap. Got the Nyan, the validation trap. So what is the validation trap? Let's talk about it. So the validation trap is the idea that you need other people to tell you how good you are for you to believe it. You need others to see your qualities and let you know about your qualities before you're able to recognize them in yourself. And the thing is, let's be honest, approval, validation, it feels good, it feels great even, but it fades. It is extremely temporary. And that is why you feel stuck, because you're relying on validation of others to kind of power you through every day. And let's be honest, that doesn't happen. That's not how life works. So it kind of feels like you're running on a treadmill where you're like chasing a carrot on the end of a stick, but you're never actually going to reach that. So everyday examples of this is like the guy that is constantly chasing the validation and approval of the other guys in his group chat or in his friend group by trying to openly like disrespect women in front of them, or openly try and do something cool or some shit in front of his guy friends because he's trying to gain their approval. This is everyday life. This is everyday life situation, something we've all experienced many times. You know, that guy that maybe just speaks a little bit louder or suddenly just thinks he's Kevin Hart or some shit when the girls come around. That guy. That guy right there, he's addicted to validation. He is chasing the approval of not just the women in that space, but mostly the men. And that's something we'll touch on a bit later in the video. But this also does relate to our relationships and our dating life. A lot of men have been kind of put into the cycle where you're constantly chasing the love and adoration of women. A lot of guys aren't able to really show themselves any kindness, show themselves any sort of respect, unless they are being validated by women. Whether that's online, through things like dating apps, which, let's be honest, are one of the main driving force of this kind of validation trap culture that we're in. Or again, people in social situations where they're constantly trying to one-up each other, or they're trying to gain some sort of notoriety or attention. It's all to push validation. They need to feel validated by others in order to feel good about themselves. And that makes you weak. So let's talk about why validation and this validation trap works and why it works. It's simply because it is never enough. Is that how you spell enough? That looks weird. Yes, it's never enough. Let me bubble that around so it doesn't get involved. But yeah, you can never get enough validation. Just ask all the girls on OnlyFans, just ask all the IG models. They're never gonna get tired of thirsty niggas pressing like on their pictures and leaving comments drooling. They're never gonna get enough of that. And it's simply because there's no amount of external validation you can get. There's no amount of people that can say, you're great, you're amazing, you're wonderful, that's gonna convince you that you are if you don't believe it internally. And that's why it doesn't last, because as humans, we're not built on just simply relying on other people telling us who we are. We need to have a sense of identity ourselves in order to be grounded in, our qualities and our character. And if you're someone that is addicted to validation, something that you'll probably realize is that your worth starts to feel like it's controlled by the opinions of other people. And that's because it is. If you are someone that doesn't actually know yourself very deeply, you're always going to defer to the opinions and beliefs of others because you have not spent a lot of time really getting to know yourself. So I've always found it interesting that the people that rely on external validation the most are usually the people that have done less self-work or have done less reflection because they're not actually aware of who they are. So they're much more likely to accept your interpretation of who they are because something is better than nothing. But that's not who you want to be. So if you feel like your battery is always empty, like you always feel drained, you don't feel like people are really appreciating you in your life, it's not other people's fault, it's your fault. Because you're not able to acknowledge your own qualities, you're not able to acknowledge your own, like who you are as a person. You're constantly just waiting on other people to affirm you. And that is a recipe for disaster. And that's what puts you in for a validation trap because it's never enough. You can never get enough of it. Okay, so we've spoken about the validation trap. Let's talk about how to get out of this trap. Let's talk about how to get out of the trap house. Oh yeah, how could I forget? If you think I did this, you're bonkers. This was not me. This was my beautiful fiancée, Sarah. Everyone, round of applause for Sarah, all right? Put W Sarah in the comments, all right? Look at that. She did a great job. Anyway, let's talk about how to choose. Oh, it's still wet, one sec. Just the way I like it. You gotta choose you. You gotta choose yourself, in the words of Kendrick. I choose me, I'm sorry. I choose me, I'm sorry. You have to choose yourself. I'm not saying you gotta be selfish, I'm not saying you gotta be some egomaniac who's just talking about yourself all day. Don't be that guy. But I'm talking about more in the sense of when it comes to validating yourself, when it comes to understanding yourself, you have to be the one that leads that conversation. You have to be one that is steadfast in who you are, the one that actually understands what you stand for, the type of person you are, and actually validate yourself for that shit. I think too many of us forget to count our small wins and really appreciate the things that we do on a daily basis. So that is why we are so susceptible to the validation trap, because we're not validating ourselves. We're just relying on random people to tell us about ourselves. Rant aside. Thirsty. Give me a sec. Hell yeah. Okay, so how do you choose yourself? Let's get into the nitty gritty, okay? Where can I find some space? I'll do it on this side. So, first you need some standards. Standards. DS? That's standards, isn't it? Yeah, standards. So you need standards. you also need you need a bit of healing, you know. You need standards, you need healing, and you need a B word. Not that B word, you naughty. You need boundaries. Oh, I forgot that. This is a bit of a workout. Oh, there we go. Not bad, right? Not bad. So, let's talk about it. How do you break the validation trap and actually start to validate yourself and really understand your worth? So the cycle stops when you stop auditioning for love and respect. Let's talk about standards. So when it comes to standards, it simply means you have to have some standards for yourself. You have to know what is okay and what isn't okay for you. And that means that you might have to cut some people out of your life simply because you need to stop tolerating disrespect. Simple as that. You need to be someone who knows your worth. You're not going to just wait around for people to appreciate you. You're only going to be in spaces where people that are there are people that are going to be able to see you for who you are and appreciate you and show you the sort of respect that you deserve. Okay, boundaries. So that's standards. So boundaries. Let's be honest. If you want to start validating yourself, it means you're going to have some boundaries. You're going to need to, let's be some sort of people that can't be around you. Let's be certain places where you go where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be here, I'm leaving. Simple as that. Because you need to protect your time, your energy, and most importantly, your dignity. You don't need to be everywhere. Not everyone should have access to you. There's some people who, might want to be able to get in touch with you, but you know they're not good for you. Boundaries are very important. That can be friends, family, exes, whoever. There has to be times where it's like, yeah, I don't want to be around you, and I'm comfortable with myself enough to say that. It's difficult, you gotta do it. And lastly, let's talk about healing. The big buzzword, healing, is something I speak about a lot on this channel, but it's something that is extremely important. All healing really is recognizing your trauma, recognizing the things that are in your subconscious, and starting to unlearn them and reparent yourself. So when it comes to that, the healing part is really understanding the root of your need for validation. Where does it come from? Where does this lack of self-care and self-love and self-appreciation come from? Maybe for you it comes from growing up in a household where people weren't open, they didn't communicate openly, and that's made you a bit insecure because you've got to try and figure stuff out. You always got to ask is everything okay? Are you mad with me? Is everything all right? Maybe you've been conditioned to do that. Wherever it is for you, you need to understand, why have I found myself in this validation trap? And in order to do that, you have to heal. You have to look inside. Okay, so that is how you choose yourself. Let's talk about what happens after you choose yourself, because I'm telling you, life is very different. And it's not only just good things. Let me explain. Just give me a sec. So after, having boundaries, having standards and healing, sure, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, then I must be cured after that. Like, everything must be cool. I must be confident. I must be secure in myself. You'd be wrong. You're forgetting one thing. You, my friend, are still human. And that is something you cannot change. So let's talk about the shift, going from someone who is constantly chasing validation to someone who's now able to validate themselves. So the 3 core principles of this, being able to validate yourself, is simply this. Firstly, respect. That respect, that is respect. We got respect, we got peace, and lastly, we got, is it power? It's power. Power. Okay, so respect. Real respect comes from when you're able to respect yourself first. People don't always acknowledge this, but they think that they respect someone because they are a respectable person and they do X or they do Y. All that is you respect someone that respects themselves. And respecting yourself can look very different to different people, but the basics are always similar. So you look after yourself, whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally. You have boundaries. People don't always acknowledge this, but people that respect themselves are usually people that have a lot of boundaries because they know their own worth. They know there's certain places they don't need to go. There's certain people that they don't need to be around, and that is okay. But people that chase validation often take respect or boundaries as disrespect because they're used to like having to play this little mind game where you're trying to earn someone's favor, you're trying to earn someone's validation. And people that respect themselves, they don't play that shit. They don't need to. So that's respect. And peace. Peace comes when you don't need other people. Simple as that. Peace comes when you don't need other people to acknowledge you. You don't need other people to say, hey, you're so great. Hey, you're amazing. Hey, you're so funny. I don't need you to tell me that shit. I know who I am. I appreciate it. Like, thank you for having eyes and seeing what's in front of you, but I don't need it. I don't rely on it. Of course, it feels good in the moment, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, thank you. So like, I need it. I need that so much. As someone that has, respect for themselves, being at peace comes in hand of that. You can't be at peace with yourself if you're just someone who has no standards. You have no boundaries. You're just out here doing anything, trying to please people that don't even like themselves. And lastly, power. Power simply comes when you know yourself, when you're grounded in who you are. If you're grounded in your values, in like what you are okay with and what you're not okay with, no one can tell you nothing. If I know who I am, if I have like actual knowledge of the kind of person I am, I don't need you to tell me I'm great. And I definitely don't need you to try and tell me I'm bad. I don't give a fuck about what you say. I know myself more than anyone else can. And that's the type of mentality that you need to try and like aspire to. Of course, you can't have that mentality every day. We're all humans, but you need to aspire to be like, okay, I have studied myself. I spent so much time learning about myself. I don't need you to tell me about myself. I don't need you to tell me I'm great. I don't need you to criticize me over and over again so I can be better. I know who I am. Because let's be honest, man, choosing yourself and placing yourself as your number one priority changes everything in your life. It changes the way that people see you, it changes the way that people treat you. I can't tell you how different my life is right now from like today, someone who's quite confident in themselves. I've done a lot of work on myself. I know who I am. Compared to like myself like 5 years ago, I was so insecure. I was constantly trying to, be a little jester for people, make people laugh, make people smile, make people, be happy with me. And people treated me like shit, I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you, man. When I was that guy that was trying to like win people's favor, make people like me.
People are like, ugh, yuck, disgusting, ugh.
And now it's the opposite. Like, I am a lot more like, I'll be honest, I have more boundaries than ever, probably ever before. And it's simply because I respect myself, I know myself. And even with these boundaries, people, if anything, make people want to get to know me more because they're like, ooh.
Who's this guy? Who's this mysterious dreadhead?
That was cringe. Okay. okay. So, let's wrap it up. I've been yapping for too long now. Oh, I think I can get used to these videos. I can get used to this. So, let's wrap it up. So, in order to escape the validation trap, the simple answer is to choose you. Choose yourself first. Know who you are so deeply that you don't need to rely on the opinions of people outside of yourself to tell you about yourself. You don't need to rely on people to tell you how great you are. You don't need to rely on people to tell you that you're intelligent. You don't need to rely on people to tell you that you're great and you're wonderful and you're beautiful and you're sexy and you got a fat ass. You don't need no one to tell you that shit. You know already. So stop putting your worth into the hands of other people, because they don't have your best interest at heart. They have their own interest at heart. Because once you start choosing yourself first, the respect and the validation that you're begging for, that you're on your knees for, it will come naturally. Because you don't need to beg to be chosen. You've chosen yourself already. Was that a bar? I think so. Peace.